What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today I want to talk about a very controversial topic that a lot of times the gaming industry does not like people to actually discuss, which is the plus and minus, the good and bad of review scores, because it does feel like over the course of the last couple years, we have gotten a lot of games that are broken, busted, that are feature incomplete, and a lot of times now people are hyper fixated on a score above all else, especially from major websites like GameSpot or IGN or VGC. If you see a review for something like Baldur's Gate or Persona 5, you want to know the game is hundreds of hours long, has cool characters and good music and fun gameplay, but also beyond that, it does feel like the number of review scores, the actual digit at the end of the video, is now very much debated above all else. And I want to talk about this because it is controversial as to how serious we should take these critiques, and I want to break it down as a person that not only reviews games, but buys and plays way too many of them. So let's discuss. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, I must admit, part of the motivation for this, I'm recording this currently in the middle of the night, but I have noticed that ever since the reviews came out for Black Myth Wukong, it got an 8 out of 10 by a lot of different websites, and people are debating whether that's good enough. It does seem like the gamer scale, as some people jokingly call it, is that anything beneath an 8, even a 7.5, is unplayable trash. You can see even people debating it live. Here's David Jaffe, the creator of God of War, actually having a current talk about it on his podcast, saying the review scores are actually fishy. And I find this interesting because if you actually break down a lot of the best games, a lot of stuff that is not bad. Now, this is purposely picking out a bunch of 80s and 82s and stuff like that. These are games that I think people would actually say are some of the best games that have come out in the last couple of years. Lies of P, Stellar Blade, Stray, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Death Stranding. These are games that have huge fan bases that manage to sell a ton of copies and are undeniably freaking epic. And I think people are saying, okay, if you believe that an 80s is a bad score, that is in fact laughable. Now, I almost think that part of this just comes down to the rise of Metacritic. Like, this is something I measured here. This is the biggest games ever released on PS5. I'm just choosing this so we have a good smattering of current stuff. And you'll notice that not only are all these games fantastic, like Resident Evil 4 Remake, Spider-Man, freaking Dave the Diver, Cocoon, Balatro. These are games that are all incredibly good, but it does feel like people are now able to aggregate scores for the first time ever. I grew up with gaming magazines. You'd bust one open and you'd had just a couple random reviews in it. Sometimes they'd even be little teeny tiny single paragraph blurbs in the back of the magazine if it was a more obscure game. They wouldn't even do like a full article about it. The fact that we have access to not only a game, but the fact that you can just click it and get huge, in-depth, wild breakdowns, like the accessibility of crazy in-depth reviews is something that's very new to gaming in general, and I think it's fantastic. But people have been chiming in about the fact that if we are able to do this, if all the information for games is instantly at our fingertips, it also makes purchasing as a buyer a lot more informed than we've ever had before. The fact that you can actually just see not only long gameplay of something, the fact that you can watch stream of something, and then of course you can watch 5 or 10 reviews about it, I think it's made people extra frugal because a lot of people have been scammed. There have been a crazy amount of stuff, like very hyped, very high budget games that came out this year even, that looked pretty decent at some point, but released in a pathetic state. Something like Skull and Bones or Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League had huge budgets, lots of marketing, and came out very obviously feature incomplete. And I see stuff like this. My 2 cents, these review scores are lower than I expected, except for Black Myth Wukong. Lies of P deserves that, but I'd rather see reviewers be more charitable to things they did innovatively. So I've seen this a lot. The debate of review scores. More people talking about the idea of not just breaking down the goods or the bads, but how important the number actually is. There has been a surprising amount of discourse about the concept of what makes a game actually good and what makes a review score good enough. And so this guy, Synth Potato, he just defends endlessly the perfection of Red Dead Redemption 2. He's like a big Red Dead Redemption 2 fan account. I mean, he talks about a lot of games, but he basically breaks down the fact that it's really interesting that this score, even when this came out, there was talks that the score was not high enough. I mean, it seems insane to consider that somebody would say that a 97 out of 109 review scores is not enough, but that was an actual topic that came out, or people mad that it's too high. Very normal response to saying the highest rated game and the 8th best generation is actually good. I wonder how many accounts that literally have mental breakdowns over people having different opinions, how they get so many followers. Wild. I think what's interesting is that, honestly, I feel like part of this rests on the shoulders of major gaming websites. Companies like IGN and GameSpot and, places across the world, Eurogamer, Polygon, all sorts of stuff like that. I feel like their reviews, of course, they get more clicks, they get more conversation, but they have kind of pushed this dialogue where their scores, they carry a heavier weight. If somebody like this one here, Alien Isolation, which is undoubtedly a horror masterpiece, this game is so freaking good. It got not even a 6 by IGN, a 5.9. They said it was mediocre. Alien Isolation erases the memory of Colonial Marines, but it's still not great as an Alien game that we were hoping for. Yeah, let's not forget possibly the worst review of all time. I think more often than not, I'm getting to this mental space where I just enjoy to watch reviews or read them purely as a form of entertainment, to kind of just see what other people think. But a lot of times I don't take them particularly serious because a lot of times it is just a single person's opinion. But I found this to be by far the most interesting tweet, and I wanted to break it down because I think it's just wild that we are in this space where, if anything, we're starting to see a lot of layoffs by gaming websites. I mean, Game Informer just got shut down. We've seen, freaking Kotaku UK just got the axe and stuff like that. And it does feel like, amid the layoffs of all these major gaming websites, I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that individual reviewers are growing in popularity. I mean, look how many millions of views I get. I'm just some random guy. And even if you hate me or you love me or you think I'm the best reviewer ever or a complete Sony pony or whatever like that, you can tell where I'm coming from. It's easy to literally go to my channel to search a particular game, and I've probably talked about it, and you could see my instant opinion on it. So you go, okay, this guy liked Devil May Cry 5. Let's see what he thought about Devil May Cry 4 or Devil May Cry 3. Oh, this guy really liked Final Fantasy 16. Let's look up his review for Final Fantasy 15 and 14. So I almost think that individual reviewers, especially people with a huge back catalog of hundreds and hundreds of reviews, you can kind of get a feel for their particular tastes. And so their review score, whether positive or negative, it almost feels more impactful because you can judge it against its past. Whereas a lot of times these large outlets, it's bizarre because it's just a committee. It's a huge conglomerate. It's a company that's not just reviewing it, but a lot of times they have multiple editors and people chopping the videos up and a separate team to Photoshop thumbnails and stuff like that. Reading reviews from large outlets feels odd at times the more I think about it. Individual reviews make more sense since I can learn about their personality and preferences of the person over time. Like, why would I care about your Death Stranding review if you mostly play combat games? And this is a great point. Now, I'm not completely just crapping on all IGN reviews or GameSpot reviews or whatever. I think a lot of times the people that work at those websites are passionate and dedicated, but you have a boss. The reviewers are just assigned that review. Individual reviewers, I think part of the reason they're kind of taking over the gaming space is because I pick what I want to play. I mean, and I feel the same thing about somebody like SkillUp or, all sorts of people, ACG. Like a lot of the biggest reviewers are picking their projects, the stuff that they're interested, they're passionate about, the stuff they think was actually worth playing to discuss. Whereas with major gaming websites, it is weird to think that an IGN review isn't really made by IGN. It's made by an employee of IGN or a freelancer or stuff like that. I don't know. Part of the motivation for this is that I don't think that particularly games are just completely falling apart. I do think that 2024, 2023, 2022 have been pretty light years. I almost think that beyond all else, I keep thinking about the fact that we're just getting less good, incredible games. We're getting less games that push the boundaries forward, and now we're becoming hypercritical of every release. Instead of getting like 20 incredible games a year, we're getting like 7 incredible games a year and hundreds of broken garbage messes. And now people have to be, by necessity, much more frugal and much more hard on which purchases they actually want to make so they don't get ripped off. And I think there's this. The deep issue is that most people make up their minds about purchasing something a long time before it comes out, and then they look to reviews to justify their purchase decisions, and that's why they lash out against the scores that they think are too low. Now, I do think this is 100% the case. In a lot of circumstances, I have reviewed a game that personally I didn't enjoy, and people get mad at me and attack me. Whereas if you want to downvote a video or say that I'm uninformed, I think that's fair. There have been times where I played something that I was excited about and I just ended up not liking it and people didn't enjoy the way I covered it. That's fine. But it does feel like people go into a game going, okay, this has to be a 9. This has to be a 10. This has to be perfect with good DLC and great replayability. And anybody who disagree with it, they're wrong. They're biased. They're messed up. They're lying, I don't know. I saw this tweet. Where was it? This one. The 7th generation had 3 Mass Effect games, 3 Batman Arkham games, 3 Dead Space games, 3 Bioshock games, 8 Rockstar games, 2 Fallout games, 2 Elder Scroll games. I think that part of the reason that people are upset, the reason people are so disheartened, the reason people are so hypercritical of current games, I think in a lot of circumstances is because there's just so much less high quality stuff. Like, this is wild. Can you even imagine this now? We're in the 8th generation. If we had this amount of output, like in this generation, we've had 1 Mass Effect game and it wasn't very good. We had 1 Batman game and it's Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, which kills Batman. We had 1 Dead Space, which was Dead Space Remake, and then the studio got shut down after they made it. We've had no Bioshocks at all. We've had, 1 Rockstar game, if you count GTA 5 being ported, and of course, the greatness that is Red Dead Redemption 2, but even that's last gen. It's wild that if you truly consider it, it's not that gaming is backsliding, but the necessity for review scores is important, but I think the criticism, the debate, the discussion about them, I think it's important. Be nice to reviewers. I've definitely seen a lot of threats, a lot of violent messages being sent to reviewers. That is obviously too far, but if you want to critique the critiquers, review the reviewers, I think that's always a valid thing to do. But these have just been my off-the-cuff thoughts, and please, if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. If there were a lot of jump cuts in this video, 4 times while filming this, my cat meowed to go out, meowed to come in, meowed to go out, and then meowed to come in. So I love my cat, but sometimes he's a goober. He's the most goober that's ever goobered.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.